Welcome to Nasdaq Trade Talks. I'm Jill Malandrino, global markets reporter at Nasdaq. Joining us for this segment, we have James Foster, CEO of ZeroFox, a platform that identifies and remediates targeted phishing attacks, credential compromise, data exfiltration, and brand hijacking, executive and location threats, and much more. Foster is here to discuss recent cyber events and trends that we need to watch to protect ourselves. Foster, it's great to have you with us. Welcome to Trade Talks.
Thanks, Jill. Appreciate the opportunity.
You got it. Let's talk about this on the enterprise level. How can CEOs detect risks found on public attack channels, including domain, email, social media, deep or dark web? There's a number of platforms they need to be cognizant of.
Look, that's right. The world has moved beyond the firewall. There have been last two decades, enterprise organizations, CEOs, even boardrooms have been focused on protecting devices, protecting applications, your network. And they do that with agents, things like next generation endpoint technology that protects the inside, putting up firewalls around your networks. But as we saw with COVID and the pandemic, everything is living outside of your firewall now. And external cybersecurity has reached a boardroom level visibility challenge. And that's what ZeroFox does.
Yeah.
We do it very well.
Well, and it's a good thing that you do, because the phishing attacks that we get on email, even text now, I'm not even sure if that's called phishing, but are so sophisticated that it's hard to pinpoint them sometimes from day to day. Just the tiny little changes that they make, whether it's in domain names or sender names, is just it's incredible how they continue to get through at times. But so, Foster, what is your point of view regarding the SEC's ruling on cybersecurity disclosure?
Look, I think there's a lot of positives that will come from it. I mean, it's still early days. I know the comment period just ended a couple of days ago from the first period of the comments. Board level visibility for cybersecurity is here to stay. I mean, this is something that seems reminiscent of Sarbanes-Oxley, GLBA decades ago, where you had the boardroom level visibility for financial requirements and financial capabilities and sophistication. Boardroom level visibility for cybersecurity issues, given the number of companies being attacked and the financial implications, is right. And so I think making sure that there are disclosures when an incident occurs, making sure that you define materiality and have expertise at that boardroom level is kind of part and parcel number one. The other requirement the SEC is talking about is making sure that you've got management controls in place and you've got the right management team. And I think it is far too long for organizations, regardless of size anymore, not to have a dedicated team for cybersecurity. I mean, there are still customers I talk to today that say, "Oh, we're looking at hiring our first person for cybersecurity." You're behind the times now. You are no longer bleeding edge if you think that just now hiring a team is the right step.
That to me sounds scary. It almost sounds like it's a little bit too late. I can't even imagine that being one of your first considerations. How does the Russia-Ukraine conflict play into all this?
It's creating a lot of volatility. I mean, everybody is very antsy about what kind of escalation could our administration or could Putin and his cyber apparatus create that this would really lead into cyber warfare. Now, the unfortunate reality is we are already seeing cyber war initiatives escalate from the Russia-Ukraine war. And so I'll give you two quick examples. There is no safe space. We see organizations that have decided to operate and stay in Russia, whether they're Putin sympathists aside, or they said, "Hey, we're not getting out. We're going to continue to operate there." They're being targeted around the world right now by what I call Ukrainian hacktivists and Ukrainian sympathists. And folks that have gotten out of Russia and said, "We're leaving Russia immediately," we've seen groups target those organizations as well. And so it's really difficult to navigate this one, especially as again, a boardroom level organization, and say, should we stay, should we go? And then what are the risks that will be posed to the organization based on that decision? Because you will have increased cybersecurity risk at all if you were operating in Russia. So
yeah, it's it's just like the average person wants to go about their day, do their banking, go on their social platforms, and not have to worry about things like this. And it is quite scary on the personal level too. Should there be a breach? So tell me where ZeroFox fits in the cyber ecosystem.
We help organizations with external cybersecurity threats, and so an external cybersecurity threat, as you defined it, is anything that lives outside your firewall. It's those domain attacks, those phishing attacks. Those cell phone annoying links you get, that's called a smishing attack. You have to fire the people that work in marketing, I think, in some of these areas. Smishing. These are attacks that happen outside your firewall, not by employees. They're not insider threats. And a lot of the times it's by nation state actors or people sitting around the other side of the world attacking your organization. So they identify everything they can about your organization and it's a public attack surface, and then try to exploit all the vulnerabilities they find. And that is seen, like I said, on social media, the deep and dark web, mobile applications, cell phones, email. That's all part of your public attack surface. And it's become the #1 area for attacks, the easiest way to attack an organization and compromise it. And then it leads to things like ransomware, which is really expensive and really, really cumbersome to kind of negotiate and deal with. And I think the SEC, going back to your earlier question, this heightened level of visibility around disclosures, when companies really now are forced their hand to start telling the world what kind of incidents they're dealing with, you're going to see the number of cybersecurity attacks, incidents, and breaches go up tremendously, because now you've got to talk about it. And before, there were two schools of thought. One, stuff it underneath the rug, hopefully nobody sees it. And now two, that's no longer allowed. That's no longer legal.
And you know what? I was just going to ask you that question. We only hear about the breaches. We only hear about the negative headlines. And my question was, is anything good, or are we doing things right to counteract any of this? Because it feels as if a lot of times it's reactive and not proactive. And to your point, you have to be proactive. It's too late. Are we getting better at this?
We are getting better at this, no doubt about it. I mean, the security products, services, the entire cybersecurity industry is more sophisticated and better than it was 10 years ago, hands down. But there's two fundamental challenges. Challenge #1, there's zero unemployment in cybersecurity today in North America, zero. And so we do not have enough highly skilled, trained resources to deploy to the companies that need these people on the front lines. And then two, the adversaries, the attackers of the world are also improving. They also are better than they were 10 years ago. And so the volume of attacks that we're seeing, the sophistication of those attacks, they're all getting better. And it's not just like you're combating what I'd call hacktivists and kids in basements anymore. You're combating nation states, governments, cyber groups that are state funded coming after businesses. And so the playing field is not level. You know, when you have an organization, maybe it's a major restaurant chain that's being attacked by a foreign government, that's not the kind of fight that we've been used to in the Western world ever. And so we need to figure out how to balance that playing field in the coming years as well.
Yeah, it's so funny that, you know, with hacktivists, I remember seeing this on Twitter, how they were attacking Russian adversaries. And your first thought was like, oh, you know, this is good. But then no, it's not good, because it means that people are sophisticated enough where it can happen to any nation.
That's exactly right. I mean, there's an incident that happened in the Ukraine a couple months ago where the director of technology and digital transformation for the Ukrainian government went out on Telegram, think of that as a foreign social network, to broadcast a list of asks for hacktivists around the world. Say, we need help. We need help defending Ukraine territory technologically, and we need help attacking Russian targets from anyone around the world. And at best estimates, there's tens of thousands of individuals that kind of took that call to arms in a cyber stance and started attacking and defending on their behalf. That crowdsourced capability is one of the ways to level the playing field, but that doesn't scale. And that becomes to look very chaotic if this were happening from multiple countries around the world where everybody's attacking everybody else and everybody's playing defense. That's also kind of a scary thought, and I don't have a solution for you there, and I'm not sure that we've seen policy guidance yet on how to fix some of these inequalities between who's attacking whom around the world.
All right, Foster, appreciate the insight. Thanks for joining us on Trade Talks. I'm Jill Malandrino, Global Markets Reporter at Nasdaq.